Hello there, you are listening to the Photography Made Simple podcast with me, your host, Audrey-Ann from Live Snap Love, where I aim to help you capture the beauty of your days through photography. Now, today on the podcast, I'm answering a question I get a lot, usually around this time of year, and that is, which order should I take the Live Snap Love courses in? Now, I get it. We've got a lot of courses available. If you've checked out our shop page on the website, you'll know that we have courses on the camera settings, on using a speed light, on Photoshop, on Lightroom Classic, on mastering natural light, on macro photography. So you can be left wondering, what exactly should I focus on first? And then what should I move on to next? So today on the podcast, I'm going to break down a suggested learning path for you using Live Snap Love courses. Now, if you're not interested in joining us in any of our programs, that's absolutely fine. You can still use this podcast as a guide to your photography learning path, whether you choose to go it alone and try and DIY it, or whether you take courses from someone else. All absolutely fine. So have a listen to it. If you are listening to learn about which course you should take first or next, then this is going to be perfect for you. But if you are just interested in doing it yourself, then absolutely still have a listen. You are going to learn about the kind of order you should learn everything in. But if you are interested in our courses, then of course you can go and check them out on our shop page. So that page has links to all of our courses. All of our courses are available all year round. You can go and check them out at any time. So just go to livesnaplove.com/everything. That's livesnaplove.com/everything. And there you will find everything that we have on offer. Just click the buttons. It'll take you through to a full sales page where you'll get full module breakdowns, testimonials, FAQs, all the information about each course that you should need. Now, I do want to start this by saying that two things actually. One, that this isn't prescriptive. You don't have to take things in this order that I'm going to recommend to you today. It's just a suggestion, and many people do it in a different way. So it really depends on you and what you want to focus on next. And the second thing is that photographers never truly stop learning or trying something new. So as you move on in your photography journey, you will want to try different genres, for example. So there's always something new to learn. So there isn't a finish line as such, but this will give you this guide to what needs your attention to get this kind of basics down before you can start really branching out and learning all sorts of different things. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in, and let's look first of all at the 4 areas that you need to learn. So broadly speaking, you can say that there are 4 main areas to learn in photography. The first is the camera, or the technical aspects of photography. So you've got this solid foundation in which to build all your other skills on. Another area is editing or post-production, whatever you would like to call it. So that's everything that you do after you take your images back into the computer, upload them. Even if you want your images to look natural and you're absolutely still going to edit your photos, remember that your camera captures in the raw file format, so it needs to be edited. It's only a question of whether you do it or your camera does it. And I'm going to tell you which one I think is going to be better to do that, and that is you. So editing or post-production is another area. The third area that you need to focus on is light. Now, light is light, regardless of whether it comes from the sun or from a speed light or any other sort of light source. But I do recommend that you start learning about natural light, simply because it is free, it is incredibly variable, it is always available, and it's the easiest to learn. But once you have that down, you'll find you apply that exact same knowledge to all types of lighting, from artificial light to on-camera flash to using a softbox or a speed light. Once you've got that basics down, you can apply it to all types of light. And the fourth area to learn is composition. So composition is simply how you arrange the various elements in a frame in order to tell a story or lead your viewer's eye or just create more interesting photos. So that's the four main areas that you need to learn in photography. But do know that these four do tend to overlap. So for example, you cannot really learn about camera exposure without also learning a little bit about light, for example. And the opposite is actually true as well. You can't really capture light effectively without knowing your camera. So there tends to be some overlap here. But for the most part, we can just divide them up into these four main sections. So the first section that we had there was the camera stroke technical aspects. So this is all about learning your tools and how to control and operate your camera. If you don't have this foundational knowledge of how to use your camera, then you're never going to be able to capture a scene the way you wanted to. No matter how much you learn about light or how much about composition, your photos will always be a little bit lackluster, not come out the way you want them to, because you don't know how to use your tool. And learning how to use your tool is definitely step one here in our photography learning path. So this is things like the exposure triangle, ISO, aperture and shutter speed, metering, shooting in manual mode, focusing modes, focusing techniques, white balance, so on and so forth. Now, this is the strong foundation. So everything else that you do from here on in needs this strong foundation. And this is something that we teach you inside the Auto to Awesome program. So in that program, we basically take you from shooting in all the auto modes in your camera to learning how to control all aspects of the camera yourself. So we cover everything that we just mentioned there, the exposure triangle, your aperture and depth of field, which numbers, how to work out exactly how much numbers you need to use there, shutter speed, all the different factors that affect your shutter speed, how to get tack sharp photos by using the right focusing modes, and all the different techniques that you can use in different situations. Now, we also cover light and composition here. Not in depth, not everything you'll need to know, but certainly enough that you can also use window light effectively, get out there on sunny days effectively, cloudy days, and have some basic compositional techniques at your fingertips. So that by the end of Auto to Awesome, you have mastered your camera and you also are able to use light and composition reasonably effectively. You're maybe not experienced with it yet, but you have a good, strong foundational knowledge. So that's what we cover in Auto to Awesome. And by the end of that, you should be reasonably confident shooting in manual mode, have a solid understanding of all the key elements of exposure and what affects them, so you know what to use at what time, how to get sharp images. You should be getting sharp images most of the time. If not, then there's something going on there. And you should be able to take really good in-camera pictures using decent light and composition. So you have this really solid, strong foundation from which to work on. Now, some people do decide to stop there. Absolutely. Because what you're getting in camera should be very good, a little bit of light editing, and you are on your way. But that's really that first stage in your photography journey. And we cover all of that inside Auto to Awesome. The second stage in your photography journey, you can go different ways here, but I recommend that you learn to do a little bit of editing here. It is so important in photography to learn what to do with your image when you get it back to the computer. You've got so much to do here, actually. You have to store your images in a way that you can find them again. You need to do some sort of keywording so that you can find those images. You would need to edit them in some way, and then you need to export them for various use, maybe in social media, maybe you're sharing in an email, maybe you're sharing to clients, maybe you are printing them. I hope you are doing some prints, but you've got a lot to do here in your editing process. So this is also sometimes called post-processing or post-production. It's all the same thing, really. It's what you do with your image once you've uploaded it there to your computer. What are you going to do with it? Now, as I said in the beginning there, how much or how little editing you do here really depends on you, but there is no way around editing your images. They all need to be processed in some way. The only question is whether you do it or you leave the camera to it. It really is that simple. So please don't go around thinking that you can skip learning about editing because you just want your photos to look natural or you want to get it right in camera. You can keep it to a minimum for sure, but there still needs to be some work done in order to make that raw files be able to be printed or shared online. Now, because you have to do this, most pro photographers, if not all, will want to take control of this process because it is just as important as what you do in camera. Now, what you'll find as you get more advanced and you learn about editing and you learn all the things you can do in post-production, you'll actually be thinking about how you edit a particular scene when you take it. So in time, it also becomes part of your shooting process. So you end up with this symbiotic relationship where what you do in camera is influencing what you do in the editing and vice versa. You start thinking about both when you take the shot. So what you want to do here is you want to think about getting a system in place for transferring your images from your memory card for longer term storage. We want to have this photo management workflow in place so that we can cull, rate, manage, and back up our images. And then once we've done that basic, we have to have some organization there in their photos or you're going to get in a horrendous mess. Then you're going to want to learn how to carry out a clean edit. And then you can get more advanced by enhancing the mood of your images with color toning or converting to black and white, making more targeted adjustments to draw the viewer's eye around the frame. If you take portraits, then you're going to want to know how to enhance those. And you're also going to want to do other things. You want to be able to save your images for output so that they look good when you share them on the web or in Facebook or with your friends or in print. So you're going to want to be able to do those things. So that is something that we cover in 2 Lightroom courses. So I use Lightroom Classic, so that's what I teach, and that's also the one I recommend. So we have Get Organized in Lightroom Classic, which is everything about the organization and management aspects of your photography collection. So how to get the photos there in Lightroom ready for you to edit, how to keyword them so you can find them again, filing systems to make sure that you have a good, robust filing system, even for when you decide in the future you maybe don't want to use Lightroom Classic anymore. That's fine. We're going to have a really robust filing system so that we can find everything. Creating collection, backing up your images, backing up your catalog, exporting for use, exporting for backup. All of those things is a photo management system. And we want to have that in place. Now, some people, I've said, even before you start learning your camera, before you take your first image, perhaps you should actually Get Organized in Lightroom Classic. And even though it's not the sexiest of topics, is it? We want to learn how to create amazing images, not learn how to back them up. That's just boring. But believe me when I tell you that if you do not have a system for organizing, managing, and backing up your photos, you will end up in a complete mess with your images. You won't be able to find anything. All those images of your child's first steps, they are going to be lost because you've got no idea where they are. Holiday travels that you went on, you'll be raking for hours trying to find them again. Whereas I have a system whereas I think, I wonder where that photo is that I took on X day where someone was wearing X. Oh, there it is. 2 seconds later, I found it. Well, maybe not 2 seconds. That's a bit of an exaggeration. But, within a few minutes, I found that image. And I'm also very confident if I stop using Lightroom Classic, it's no biggie. I have everything organized, catalog, set up, backed up, that I'm good. I'm good. So I think it's really important to have that. And if you have that from the get-go, then you'll never get into a mess. So many people come, they join me in the Get Organized in Lightroom Classic course, and they start by trying to get themselves out of the mess that they've got themselves in the first place. I do actually recommend that you do this as soon as possible. So although I'm recommending it after Auto to Awesome, mainly because I know that you'll probably want to start there, get this done as soon as possible. If you can get it done right at the beginning of your photography journey, you are going to save yourself a lot of time and energy and bandwidth and probably heartache down the road. There we are. So we have Auto to Awesome and then Get Organized in Lightroom Classic. So the next thing that we want to do is to learn how to edit our images. In order to edit your photos effectively, you are learning two different things really. You're learning the skill of editing. In other words, how to look at your image and assess which edits to make. Then you're going to learn how to use the tools in your chosen software to apply that skill. If that seems a little bit confusing, then think of it this way. When you learn about how aperture works and affects the look of your photo and how to choose the right aperture and about depth of field, it really doesn't matter whether you shoot Nikon or Canon or Sony or Panasonic. That skill that you're learning there is the same regardless. But you are also going to want to learn how you control aperture on your chosen camera model. So it's the same with editing. You can choose any software you want, but you are going to want to learn how to look at your image, look at it objectively, and decide what edits it needs. And then you're going to learn the skills, in other words, the tools in your chosen software to do that, regardless of the software you use. Now, my personal preference and strong recommendation is for you to get the photography plan from Adobe. And this is where you'll use Lightroom Classic for your main organization tool and your file photo editor. And you'll also have Photoshop for when you are ready to get more advanced. It is still, I believe, $10 a month, so it's really cost effective as well. You never have to buy upgrades. You don't have to worry about upgrading in 2 years' time. So the cost is really nicely spread out as opposed to you having a lump sum 1 year and then paying another couple of years down the line for an upgrade. It's just done, $10 a month. You're kind of paying for it continually rather all in one go. But anyway, moving on from the type of software, we want to learn the skill of editing too. And that is what we cover inside Edit Like a Pro in Lightroom Classic. Now, a couple of people have asked me, can they take this and apply it to other editing software? The only other editing software it's going to apply to is Lightroom, the sort of mobile on-the-go version of Lightroom, which you can use on the desktop as well. But it is a slightly different format, slightly different look, but you'll be able to take 90% of what you learn in Edit Like a Pro in Lightroom Classic and apply it to using that in Lightroom as well. Lightroom just doesn't have a couple of tools that Lightroom Classic have that you won't be able to use. But essentially, this is going to teach you how to look at your image, assess what it needs, and carry it out. And we're going to give you a full end-to-end workflow. So you don't have to wonder what you should be doing next or when you're ready to stop editing or, whether something photo needs this much or that much. You'll know, you'll have a complete workflow that you come in and you do X, X, and X to your photo and you work your way through your editing checklist until you've made all the adjustments that you're needed for your image and you're finished. Now, it doesn't mean you'd be doing the same thing to every image each time. It just means that you're going through a set of workflow steps, being able to look at your image, assess what it needs, and then carry that out. So that is what we teach you in Edit Like a Pro in Lightroom Classic. So far we've done Auto to Awesome, which is learning the camera itself and your technical basics of photography, that really strong foundation that you're going to need for everything else. Then I would recommend that you get organized in Lightroom Classic because that is going to help you get a full organizational system for your photos, which will stop you from getting in a mess. You can do that as early as you want. That's the earlier, the better. And then I would recommend Edit Like a Pro in Lightroom Classic because, as I said earlier, I feel like when you are able to edit, you understand how to look at your photo and see what needs in editing and what you can do there, that really helps you out when you're shooting as well. You're able to kind of picture the end result when you're taking the photo, and it helps you make those crucial adjustments when you're taking the photo as well. So it does have a great relationship between the two, which is why I recommend learning editing straight after you've learned your camera. Now, at this point, you should be in complete control of your camera. You should know where everything is. You should be able to choose your settings effectively. You should be shooting in manual mode. You should be able to edit them effectively in the raw file editor of your choice. And overall, you should be really pleased with your images. You should be looking at them and thinking, I would have killed to take this photo a year ago. This is fantastic. But you also might be thinking, these aren't as special as some of the images I see from my favorite photographers. They're good, but maybe they're not great. They're just missing that magical element that some images you see from some of your favorite photographers have. And you might be wondering, what am I missing? Well, what you're missing is the most important element of photography, and that is light. Now, light is without doubt the most important critical element in photography. Photographers are literally writers of light. That's how we take a photo. We are not capturing a scene as such, we are capturing the light and shadow of that scene. So there really is nothing as important as being able to use the light and shadow in the scene effectively. So in order to get more advanced, you are going to need to fine-tune your understanding of light so you can get more creative images, be able to affect the mood of the images with the light that you use, get better portraits, make those little tweaks that allow you to take an image from being good to being great. And that is what we're going to do in this next stage. Now, this is something that we cover in our Mastering Natural Light course. As I said at the beginning of this podcast, I recommend that you start learning with natural light. It is all around you. It is free. It is incredibly changeable. So you can work with all different sorts of lighting conditions, from low light to sunny days to side light to, absolutely everything. There's so much you can do with natural light. In fact, you never need to use an artificial light source if you don't want to. So I always recommend that you start with learning with natural light. And that is what we cover in our Mastering Natural Light course. This is where we cover a solid understanding of the key characteristics of light so you can identify, assess the light, and then understand how to use it. The science of how light behaves, such as the laws of refraction, how to use additive and subtractive light, different lighting situations, high angle light, up light, down light, color cast, dappled light. We cover how to manipulate the light, such as changing the light quality, funneling, using different patterns, styles, absolutely everything to do with light. And in fact, back in the beginning of my photography journey, I thought I understood light. By what we cover in Auto to Awesome, that's what I knew. And I thought I knew it. I thought that was it. And I thought, well, that's what I need to know. And then I dove into learning about light, and it was like, oh, it is a whole other world of things to learn and master. But once you have done that, once you have truly learned how to see the light and how to use it to your advantage, I promise, first of all, you'll never look at the world in the same way again, whether you have your camera with you or not. It really opens your eyes, and you'll be able to take images that are one step beyond and just more magical than anything that you've been able to produce before. You might be wondering, well, if light is so crucial, if it's going to make such a massive difference to my image, why don't I learn that here, right to the beginning of my photography journey? Why do I have to wait till, I have taken Auto to Awesome and I've done all this? Why can't I just learn about light? And it's because you need to understand how to use your camera. If you don't understand how to shoot in manual mode, you are never going to be able to capture light effectively. So I said this at the beginning, there's some things that just kind of need to go together, and this is one of them. So you can use light beautifully without, necessarily shooting in manual mode, but to really be in control, you'll definitely want to have that solid foundational skills that we cover in Auto to Awesome. So after you've done all that, this is when I recommend that you take Mastering Natural Light. Now, for some of you might be using other editing programs or just not too interested in editing, in which case, skip the editing, that's fine. You can go straight from Auto to Awesome to Mastering Natural Light. But you definitely want to learn about light. It is absolutely crucial. And you need to have Auto to Awesome first, or at least that basic understanding of what we cover in Auto to Awesome in order to capture the light effectively. Okay, so now we understand how to shoot in manual mode. We are being able to organize our images effectively. We can edit them effectively. And now we have our eyes opened to the beauty of the world that is around us by learning how to control, manipulate, assess, identify all forms of natural light. At this point, you are feeling fantastic. Your photos are looking more magical. You can edit them. You can do so many things, and you are really feeling in control of your craft. Where would I turn next? The next thing I would probably turn my attention to is composition. This is when you can start to experiment with more advanced composition tools and guides. Now, you already have some basics down. This is what you'll have covered back in our very first steps there. And if you took Auto to Awesome, you'll have got lots of composition guides in order to help you create beautiful images. Things like the rule of thirds or framing or leading lines. Now you can build on those skills and learn new guides. And also consider other elements of an image, such as the effect of color. So this is when we will start to use more advanced composition guides, the Fibonacci spiral, the golden ratio, repetition, balance, rhythm, depth, chromatic contrast, chromatic association, texture, and so on and so on and so forth. There's so many things that we can do here. And this is when you really start feeling more creative and being inspired to try new things, because you've reached this fun part of photography where you can just focus on being creative. Now, unfortunately, we've reached the point in the program where I don't have a course to cover this. This is going to be coming in early 2025. So do keep an eye out for that. We are going to be covering advanced composition in 2025 with a brand new course. I had hoped to get it out by the end of the year, but I'm sure you all appreciate what happens. It seems like, you've got all the time in the world, and then November hits and it's just one thing after another. And then, it's Christmas. So it won't manage to happen this year, but we will be having a composition course coming out next year. But for now, we will continue our little journey. And the final thing that I think you will want to learn is how to use Photoshop for more advanced editing. Now, you'll get Photoshop as part of the photography plan from Adobe, and it's really worthwhile learning how to use it. This is where you will do adjustments that Lightroom or Lightroom Classic simply can't do. So that's more advanced pixel adjustments, such as replacing the sky or swapping the heads in a portrait or extending the canvas or liquefying or removing bulky items from the frame. Lightroom Classic has actually got a lot better at that. But, anything that is that kind of pixel adjustments that Lightroom Classic simply can't do. And also things like more advanced color toning that you just don't have that same level of control in Lightroom Classic. Again, it's getting a lot better. It's getting to the point where you're very rarely needing Photoshop, or maybe not very rarely, but not as often. But it's so important to learn how to use Photoshop to be able to do these things. So I do take images into Photoshop just for, even if it's only for 5-10 minutes, just to do something that I cannot do in Lightroom Classic, or Lightroom Classic doesn't do as well, doesn't give me the same level of control that I get in Photoshop. Now, we do actually have 2 different courses on Photoshop. If you're brand new to Photoshop, you'll want them both. If you are already comfortable using Photoshop, then you can dive into the second one. I'll just explain what both of them are and why they're different. So Photoshop Fundamentals is for brand new Photoshop users. If you've taken a look in Photoshop and gone, I don't even understand how this works, never mind what to actually do in here, then Photoshop Fundamentals is for you. We'll go over how to create layers, adjustment layers, fill layers, how to make edits, how to change edits once you've done them, how to create pixel layers, when and where to put them in the workflow, how to export your images, save them, so on and so forth. We cover all of this inside Photoshop Fundamentals. This is less about how to edit your photos and more about how to use Photoshop. So you've got that really solid core understanding of Photoshop, which is different than using Lightroom. It's just got a whole different process and system. So if Photoshop is scary, overwhelming, intimidating, you've used any of those words to describe Photoshop, then this is for you. However, if you already feel comfortable using Photoshop, maybe you've used it, but you're just not sure what you could do in Photoshop, never mind how to do it, then you can go right ahead and skip into Photoshop Magic. And this is where we get into the editing techniques. So we go through this in a really logical step-by-step way. Trust me, you'll absolutely love it. We will cover how to add extra depth and pop to your image. We'll do black and whites. We'll discover how to do things like adding sunshine and flare. We'll do color washes, toning vignettes, color pops, gradient tricks, overlays. We'll do the pixel adjustments, swapping heads, merging images, extending the canvas, using filters for giving fuller hair, slimming down the arms. We'll do lens flare, lens blur, just so much. Portrait retouching as well. But basically, this is all the editing steps. So you're going to learn exactly what you can do in Photoshop. So if you think to yourself, I don't even know what I would do in there, well, we're going to tell you what you can do in here, and we're going to show you how to do it. And we're going to do it in a way where you're going to learn all the different tools. So you'll learn curves, levels, color balance, gradient maps, selective color, how to use overlays, all the different pixel tools that you have there, how to use filters, how to use a liquify tool. Basically, we go through everything. So it's a really in-depth course, but by the end of it, you are going to have a really good idea of what you can do in Photoshop and be excited to get in there and edit your photos. Even if you just go in there, you do most of your editing in Lightroom Classic, and then you go in there to extend the canvas or to do a bit of portrait retouching or to add in some lens flare, then that's fine. It is for that. That's for doing that extra magical finishes to your edits. And that takes us to the end, really, because here now you should have all that core skills. You should be able to use your camera effectively, be great at choosing your camera settings, shooting in manual mode, have an organizational system for your photos, be able to edit your photos effectively in both Lightroom Classic and in Photoshop, and have a crucial understanding of how to use natural light and having fun playing with different composition rules. At this point, you can then really start to have fun with photography because you can do anything really your little heart desires. This is when I would move on to learning different techniques that aren't there in the core sort of schedule, so to speak. For example, maybe you've got an interest in macro photography. Well, we certainly recommend that you have auto to awesome first, or you're not going to go too well in macro photography without having a basic knowledge of your camera. But you might want to dive into macro photography next. Or maybe you want to learn how to use a Speedlight. Again, you want to have that crucial understanding of light first. Remember, light is light regardless of whether it is natural or artificial. But having that knowledge of natural light first will make learning artificial light so much easier. So we have courses, for example, on macro photography and on using your Speedlight and on starting a business. But I really recommend this once you've got the basics down. Once you have that understanding of using your camera, using light, using composition, and being able to edit your photos effectively, then you can go and start to play with all different genres and styles of photography. So I still take a photography course. I've been doing this now for 18 years, 17 years, something like that. And I'll still take a course. It's not to learn something new a lot of the time. It's just that taking a course on a different style of photography can be really interesting. And it helps get me out of my comfort zone and try something new. So I will still take a course in photography. I won't take a basic course. I won't take a course that teaches me how to, set my camera or how to use natural light, but I might take one where somebody gives me a behind the scenes on what they're doing. It's always great to learn from other photographers as well. And I just think courses are the best way to do it. Everything's laid out for you step by step. Brilliant for learning photography, but also fantastic when you are a bit more advanced, and it really just unlocks something in you when you're taking a course compared to doing it on your own. So there you have it. That is my recommendation for both your photography journey and for the order in which to take the Live Snap Love courses. So just to recap there, always start with Auto to Awesome. If you want to, if you're brand new and you don't want to dive into that, or you maybe just want to get an idea of how we teach first of all, then you can start with the Beginner's Bootcamp. But if you just want to get right to it, skip that and just go straight for Auto to Awesome. That is a foundational course that you're going to want for everything else. Then after that, I recommend Get Organized in Lightroom Classic so that you've got a system for organizing and managing your photos right from the get-go. And then Edit Like a Pro in Lightroom Classic so that you know how to make those crucial edits to your images. And most importantly, you'll start to see that what you can do in editing sort of affects what you can do in camera. You start thinking about the two of them together, and I think that's really important. The next step is to master natural light. Before you do anything else, that is so crucially important. So if you want to skip editing, that's not of any interest to you, then that's fine. That's entirely up to you. Then just go straight into mastering natural light. But if you have taken Auto to Awesome and you haven't yet taken mastering natural light, make that your next step. Then the next step after that would be to take our composition course when it comes out. But until then, you can definitely make yourself useful by learning how to edit your photos in Photoshop. And then you can take the composition course when it comes out next year. And our other courses, like our macro course and our Speedlight course, they're there just to dive into when you want to, or after you've taken all of the other courses. But for example, if you've taken Mastering Natural Light and before you do anything else, you want to learn how to use a Speedlight, then absolutely go ahead and dive into that. As I said, this is just a suggested order. You might have things coming up that you need to learn something quickly. You might be doing a wedding, for example, and you want to go and learn about mastering natural light, which is an absolute must if you're going to be photographing weddings, and maybe how to use a speed light, and then you're going to worry about the rest of it later. That's absolutely fine. You do you, but this is just a suggested learning path. Now, as I said, if you've got no intention of taking a Live Snap Love course, that's absolutely fine. You definitely don't need to get your photography education from me. You've got lots and lots of choices, or you can try and go it alone. Don't really recommend that. You're going to miss out on lots of crucial information, but I do recommend getting your photography education from somewhere. But you'll see that following that kind of path will help you decide whether that next course is for you or not. Maybe you've covered everything there in that stage 1. Then go and start to look for another stage 2 course. Don't try and repeat another stage 1 course, for example. So I hope you found this helpful. But if you are wondering what course you should take based on your own unique set of circumstances and where you are in your photography journey, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I will leave a link to a contact form in the description around where you're listening to this podcast episode, and you can go ahead and get in touch with me there, and I will recommend a course for you. And of course, you can check out our courses at any time by going to livesnaplove.com/everything. That is livesnaplove.com/everything. And there you will find literally all the courses we have on offer. You can just click the button to find out more about each one. And in there, you'll find all the information you need about the course, who it's for, who it's not for, what you'll learn in each module. Everything you need to know is on that page. And of course, there's a button there. If you look on the bottom right of any sales page, you can get in touch with me directly there if you have any questions at all. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. I hope you found it useful and helpful. And I will see you again, same time, same place next week. So until then, have a fantastic week and I'll see you really soon. Bye for now.